Hey, it's me, Mackenzie Marie. Today we're diving into one of the most mysterious and daring crimes in history. A man hijacked a plane, demanded $200,000 in cash, and then disappeared into the stormy night, never to be seen again. And I think he survived. It all started November 24th, 1971. It was the night before Thanksgiving. A man wearing sunglasses, a trench coat, and a suit walked into the Portland International Airport. He purchased a one-way ticket for $20 going to Seattle. Tacoma International Airport on Northwest Airlines, flight 305. It was a quick 30-minute flight. He gave the name Dan Cooper at the counter. Nothing about him seemed unusual. He was described as a quiet, polite man with a calm demeanor, probably in his mid-40s. Back in 1971, airport security was nothing like we know it today. You didn't have to go through metal detectors, there was no bag checks. Anyone could walk right up to the boarding gate, ticket or no ticket. You could bring anything you wanted onto an airplane, and I do mean anything. This man had one piece of luggage, a black briefcase. Once aboard, he settled into seat 18C, which was in the back of the plane. He was riding on a Boeing 727 aircraft. He ordered a bourbon and a soda while smoking a cigarette. And yeah, you could smoke cigarettes on planes back then. The flight took off on schedule at 2:50 p.m. with 36 passengers and a small crew aboard. A few minutes after takeoff, Cooper handed a handwritten note to one of the flight attendants, Florence Schaffner. Initially, she just thought it was another guy flirting with her, so she pocketed the note and she didn't even look at it until Cooper leaned into her and he told her, "Hey, you should probably read that note." When Florence opened the note, her hands shaking, the words were simple but terrifying. The note read, "I have a and I will use it if you don't follow my instructions." Terrified, the flight attendant asked if he's serious. Cooper then opens up his briefcase. Inside, she saw wires, red sticks, and what appeared to be a detonator. Holding the bare ends of two wires, he threatens to blow up the plane if they don't follow his directions. Did I mention that this is a real story? Cooper's instructions were clear. The flight attendant wrote down exactly what Cooper's demands were. The request was $200,000 cash in a knapsack by 5 p.m. He also requested for 2 front parachutes and 2 back parachutes. This request wasn't random. By asking for multiple parachutes, Cooper made the flight crew believe that he was going to be taking someone hostage. He also demanded the plane remain airborne while his requests were being fulfilled, and a fuel tank ready to refuel the plane when they landed. The flight attendant took the note to the cockpit and told the pilot what was happening. The flight crew immediately contacted air traffic control, relaying Cooper's demands. Air traffic control contacted the authorities and the FBI. The pilot insisted that Florence would stay in the cockpit and document everything happening in real time. And no one on the flight even knew that the plane was being hijacked, except for the small crew. The crew quietly worked together to keep Cooper calm and to follow his instructions. On the ground, the FBI scrambled to gather the ransom money from the surrounding Seattle area banks, ensuring that every bill was photographed and recorded by serial number. Meanwhile, the passengers were completely unaware of what was happening. Dan Cooper was completely chill, drinking a bourbon and smoking a cigarette. The plane circled above Seattle for hours until the FBI finalized the ransom. While the plane circled Seattle, one of the flight attendants was demanded to sit next to Cooper. While chatting with Cooper, she asked why he chose Northwest Airlines to hijack. He laughed at her, and then he replied, "It's not that I have a grudge against your airline, it's that I have a grudge." Then he explained that the flight simply suited his needs. Around 5:24 p.m., the pilot was informed that the parachutes had arrived at the airport. They then notified Cooper that they would be landing soon. At 5:46 p.m., flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Cooper instructed the pilot to park in a remote section of the runway, far from other planes, and to keep the lights dim. He made it clear that he was watching every move. Cooper's demands were carefully fulfilled. First, the $200,000 cash was brought onto the plane. The flight attendant sitting next to Cooper was instructed to exit the aircraft through the front door and retrieve the ransom money. She returned, carrying the bag of money past all of the other people sitting on the plane. The bag contained all $200,000 in cash, all $20 bills, which weighed 19 pounds. In exchange, Cooper released all 36 passengers and 1 flight attendant. They were allowed to disembark unharmed into the custody of the authorities waiting on the ground. However, the flight crew The pilot, the co-pilot, the flight engineer, and one of the flight attendants were all ordered to stay on board under his command. One by one, the parachutes were brought on board. The flight attendant gave him an instruction manual on how to use the parachute, and he was just like, no, I don't need that. Cooper then instructed the flight crew that they were going to be taking off again, which involved refueling the plane. There was a problem refueling, which added more time, which only added to the tension of the situation because Cooper was still on board the aircraft, carefully watching every move to ensure his directions were being followed exactly. With everything ready for takeoff, he had one last instruction. He demanded for the plane to take off again, going to Mexico City. From the time the plane landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport to the time it took off again was roughly 2 hours. And when they took off again, he had very specific conditions for the flight. He ordered the plane to fly at a very low altitude, 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down and the flaps at a specific angle, and at a speed no faster than 200 miles per hour. He even insisted the cabin remain unpressurized, so there would be no rapid changes in air pressure. It's very clear he knew a thing or two about aviation. At 7:40 p.m., the plane takes off again, with Cooper still in control of the entire situation. While in the air, the pilot alerts Cooper that they did not have enough gas to get to Mexico City. So he agrees that they were going to fly towards Reno. Meanwhile, 2 Air Force jets follow the plane, tracking their location. At some point, while flying over southwestern Washington, in the middle of a storm, Cooper opens the rear stairs. A Boeing 727 is one of the only commercial aircrafts that has rear stairs. And in 1971, there was nothing to stop these rear stairs from opening while in flight. He strapped the money to himself, he put on one of the parachutes, and then he jumped out of the plane in the cold, rainy night and disappeared into darkness. At approximately 8:13 p.m., the aircraft's tail suddenly pitched upward, forcing the pilot to return the aircraft to level flight. The crew did not dare go to the back of the plane because they thought he was going to jump and then detonate the device. But they knew something had happened when they felt a sudden shift in cabin pressure. That was the exact moment that DB Cooper jumped out of the plane. But here's the thing, it wasn't just any jump. He leaped into complete chaos. Heavy rain, fierce winds, and a pitch black night over the rugged forest of southwestern Washington. And he was dressed in nothing but a suit and tie and some loafers. It was like something straight out of a spy movie, except it wasn't a movie at all. This was very real. The plane safely landed in Reno, Nevada, with Cooper gone. The FBI immediately swarmed the area, launching one of the most extensive manhunts in US history. We're talking helicopters, spotter planes, the FBI, the National Guard, military, search dogs, local law enforcement, anyone and everyone that could help. And they searched everywhere, in forests, rivers, mountains, but there was no sign of him anywhere. 28 square miles was mapped out and claimed to be his last known whereabouts. Not a single shred of evidence indicated whether he landed or even survived. No body was found, dead or alive. A lot of people assumed that there was no way he could survive a jump like that. The hunt went cold with no tangible evidence until another plane was hijacked. Different airline, same aircraft, a Boeing 727. But this time, he demanded $500,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. Exact same situation. He jumped from the rear stairs of the plane, just like DB Cooper. On a tip, the FBI stormed the home of Richard McCoy. He was an ex-Vietnam pilot. In his house, they found a jumpsuit and $500,000 in cash in a duffel bag. And Richard was arrested under the suspicion of both hijackings. But there was no evidence to link him to the DB Cooper hijacking, so he was only charged for the one hijacking. Although sketches of DB Cooper and Richard McCoy look strikingly similar, the hostages on the first flight were shown pictures of Richard and they just denied it wasn't the same guy. The thing is, if Richard McCoy could do that jump and survive, there was a big possibility that DB Cooper survived that jump as well. And here's the kicker. The $200,000 in cash, some of it was discovered almost a decade later, buried along the banks of the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington, where he was said to have jumped at. A young boy found the money buried along the shoreline of the river. It was wet, molded, and it still had the original rubber bands wrapped around the bills. The bills matched the ransom money serial numbers. And this is where legends truly kick off. People started coming up with all these theories about D.B. Cooper. Some people think he was a skilled skydiver who survived the jump and disappeared into a new life with the money, while other people don't believe he made it at all. There's wild conspiracy theories like maybe he was FBI or he covered up his death. The truth remains a mystery till this day. And the craziest part, no one even knows his real identity. He left behind the legacy of one of the most daring criminals of all time. I mean, who escapes jumping out of a plane into a storm? D.B. Cooper does. What do you think happened? Because I think he survived. I think he was a skilled pilot. I think he was either in special forces or he was in the military. That guy was definitely trained to jump out of a plane with a parachute though. And I'll leave you with this one last piece of evidence.
We just solved it.
Now, he says it belongs to a man named Richard McCoy Jr. Now, look at the side-by-side comparison. The parachute was found on the McCoy family property about 2 years ago.
It was found in McCoy's mother's possessions, deep in her storage with all of her prized possessions. She was a grandmother not related to aviation or skydiving, and she had the parachute, the canopy, his logbook. She had all that stuff tucked away in her private possessions that hadn't been seen for 53 years.
But you also say that the FBI asked for a DNA sample from one of McCoy's children.
I tried like crazy to get these kids to talk to me, and they would not talk to me until both their mother and their grandmother died. Their mother, Karen McCoy, was an accomplice in both hijackings, and what most people don't know is that there was actually 2 hijackings. There was the first one, the D.B. Cooper one, and then the same guy, Richard Floyd McCoy, he went back and did the exact same thing 5 months later, April of '72. It's the same guy, but none of the kids would ever talk to me about this until they were both dead. And then they felt relieved that their mother was no longer in danger of going to prison as an accomplice in the D.B. Cooper heist.
Let me know what you think happened in the comment section below. I really do think he survived. My song Devil in You is out now on all streaming platforms, so go stream it, go listen to it, go like it, add it to your playlist, send it to all your friends. I love this song, so I hope you love it too. And the link for that will be in the top of the description below. Let me know what story I should cover next. Shout out to this person for being in the premiere of my last video. Subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, and comment down below if you want a shout out in my next video. You can follow me on any of my social medias at Mackenzie Marie, and I will see you here in my next video. Toodles!